เคมจะ
ครับครับ Hello and good morning. Good morning, everybody in Washington, Seattle, and also in Vancouver, Canada. This is the broadcasting from the page Dhamma in Seattle, Washington. Also, Wattapanyaญญาน Nantharam from Vancouver. Like to say also good evening in Thailand, especially in South Thailand, who are probably watching this program on every Saturday morning in Washington, and must be in the night time, the evening time in Thailand.
morning
Today is very special day that is one of the most important day in the Theravada Buddhism, that is Asalahapuja. We would like to have a knowledge of what it is and the significance of the Asalahapuja. Asalahapuja is a Pali, and it is one of the most important day in the Buddhism, especially in Theravada Buddhism. And it has been a Buddhist holiday, especially in Thailand. We are really celebrating this occasion. It has been coming from the Asalahapuja Purana Puja, which has a meaning of homage or worshipping the full moon day of Asalaha month, which is the fourth month according to the Indian calendar, and it is the eighth month according to the general or common calendar, and always fall in the month of July or August. Apart from that, Asalahapuja has been accepted all over the Buddhist country and considered as a valuable day or the important day for the really most important event that occur 45 years before the Buddha passed away in the day of Asalaha. We call it Ditti, the occasion, and during the 8th month of the common calendar. And that event happened at the Isipatana Marukatayawana. It's a forest park in Varanasi, in the state of Kasi in India. It is the day when the Buddha delivered the first sermon, and that first sermon is called Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. He delivered that to the 5 disciples. We call it Pañcavakkiya. The sermon made the Brahmin, especially Kondanya, one of the most important Panchavaki, which is consisting of Kondanya, Wapa, Padiya, Mahanama, and Asashi, was really appreciated in the Dhamma of the Buddha being delivered by him. And he understanding the Dhamma throughout the time of delivering. And he achieved and became the first noble being as a Sodaban. And then he asked the Buddha to ordain him, and that's how the ordination process is called Ehipikku Upasampata. Kondanya has become the first monk in the Buddhism, especially in the Theravada school of the Buddhism, and considered as the first disciple of the Buddha. And that forms the third component of the Buddhism, which was Sangha. And so he was the first monk. And that's how the third component or the Buddhism has declared as the Buddhism or as the religion, because of consisting of the complete three elements, which is the Buddha himself, the Dhamma that he's delivered, and the disciple that has become a first monk of the world of the Buddhism. So that's how today has called us the Dhamma Day as well. And the first Dhamma that had been spreading throughout the world today, which is called the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. It's come in the form of the Buddha set out in motion the wheel of the Dhamma. But not only it has been called the Dhamma Day, it might be called or considered as the Sangha Day. Which refer to the existence of the first monk. And because of the existence of the first monk, Kondanya, that make the Buddhism a religion, which is consist of the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. So this day may be considered as the day of the three gems, or we can call it the triple gems day. Long before the Asalahapuja day was not really a festival or celebrated in the month of in the 8th month, during the 8th month. In the Theravada country, for example, Thailand or Myanmar, Cambodia, or Laos. I think until the 1960 or maybe 2 or 3 years of 1960, the Asalahapuja day has been introduced and started to be celebrated in Thailand. And has been announced as one of the most important festivals in the Theravada tradition on our country of the Thailand, and not only Thailand, also Laos, Myanmar, Cambodia. So that set up the Asalahapuja day, one of the most important day in Thailand Buddhism. And it has been announced as the official holiday. During the day, there are many activities, many services have been performed at the temple. And finally, today, it has become a universal Buddhist festival that has been celebrated all over the Buddhist country. Today, as the Asalahapuja day, it's the day that the Buddha delivered the first sermon, that he has been enlightened for the first time. So today can be also considered as the Buddha announced the establishment of the Buddhism to the world. Because he could announce what he discovered. He announced the teaching, declaring what he has been discovered after he enlightened. He disclosed what he has been discovered to the world. And today made him become the greatest teacher of the world. Completely. And that was because Samma Sambuddha, he has been accomplished by himself. He has been enlightened by himself. which is different from the individual Buddha, or we call it Pacceka Puttha, Pacceka Puttha, which is only enlightened but could not be able to teach what he discovered, what he enlightened to the world. And that's how today also being called at the Dhamma Day. Today, as the Asalahapuja Day, is the day that the Gondanya, the first disciple, attained what is called achievement, the Dhamma achievement, as a Sodaman. So he had become the first noble person of the world regarding to the Buddhism. And he asked the Buddha to ordain him. And the process called Ehipiku Upasambata, as I mentioned. And that's how today also considered as the Sangha Day. So the Asalahapuja Day may be set up in order to recall all the event, the important event in the Buddhism, which we should consider as the following important event. The first one is the first day that the Buddha announced officially the Buddhism as a religion, and it has become complete religion of the world. The second is the first day that the Buddha delivered his teaching, which has become a greatest teaching, moving the wheel of the Dhamma, that officially announced his first teaching. And it can be the most, can be considered as the first sermon. It's setting out in motion the will of the Dhamma to the world. And that is called Dhammacakka Kappawattana Sutta. And it has been considered as the teaching or the sermon of the Buddha, the first teaching of the Buddha that delivered to his disciple or to the world. And it's the first day that the Buddhism has the noble being, and that is Anyakodanya, and was ordained directly by the Buddha. And the process is called Ehipiku Upasambata. And the fourth is the day of the complete Triple Gems existed. We call it Ratanatraya, the Triple Gems, that is referred to the Buddha, Ratana, the Dhamma Ratana, and Sangha Ratana. After the Buddha enlightened during the day of the full moon in the 6th month at Uruvela Sena Nikama, the Buddha was sitting under the Bodhi tree to take up the happiness that he has been realizing from enlightenment. And that location was called as a Sattama Mahasathana, the location of enlightenment, under the Bodhi tree. And he sat there for 7 weeks in order to consider or contemplate what he has been discovered. So during the 5th week after enlightenment, the Buddha actually decided not to teach what he has been discovered, or what we call it enlightenment, but because the invitation of the Deva, of the God, that asked him, please deliver the Dhamma to the world in order to get rid the suffering from the people. He has been revealed what he has taught, that the teaching that he has discovered, what is called Dhamma, is too difficult to the world or to the people, especially ordinary people, to understand the things, the Dhamma that he discovered. But during the asking of the Brahm Deva, that told him that there are different classes of the people, and there must be a people who can understand the Dhamma that he discovered easily. Some maybe take some time or even a longer time to understand what he has been discovered. And the lower class can maybe not understand what he discovered. So he concludes that there are totally 3 kinds of the lotus as a simile. That under the mark, or under the water level, or at the level, or above the level. the one who below the level, the water level, that will take very long time to understand what he has discovered. Maybe need a lot of effort, need a lot of studying, need a lot of listening in order to understand what he discovered as the Dhamma. Or the one that just lying on the level of the waters, that is only listen and keep consider what he has taught, and then he can understand the Dhamma. Or those who beyond or above the water level can easily understand what he delivered, what he discovered. So after he listened to the Brahm, then he revealed, and then he decided to teach what he discovered to the world. And as it has been a teaching of the Buddha as the Dhamma, that we are all luckily that with the invitation of the Brahm, that invite him, please him to teach the Dhamma to the world today. So after he enlightened and after he accept the invitation of the Brahm, there's a group of people that he firstly thinking about to teach what he had discovered during the enlightenment. Is his own associated, that is the five associates, which is called a Panchawaki lateral. So he decided to travel from the spot that he stay for 7 weeks with also the invitation of the Brahm. He start a trip. He began to make a trip from that spot to the forest park called Isipatana Malikatayawan. Isipatana Malikatayawana in the state of Kasi, in the city of the Varanasi, where he met his associates, the 5 associates, which became the first 5 disciples led by Anya Kondanya. So when he arrived at Isipatana Malikatayawana, or we call a deer park, he has been walked for more than 200 kilometers in order to he has a really strong intention to deliver. Or maybe he was thinking that he just want to tell his associate that the story what he discovered under his enlightenment. So after the meeting, after the greeting between the Buddha himself and associates led by Agondanya, so he started deliver his Dhamma. There was a location, specific location that Buddha met with the associate led by Kondanya, and that is called the Stupa. And it has become one of the most popular pilgrimage in India. And that is called Kanti Stupa, or the full name is Jau Kanti Stupa. And that's how, after Buddha meeting with the Kondanya and his friend, so he declared, he announced, he disclosed what he has been discovered during enlightenment. The Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. So after all 5 disciples listened the Dhamma of the Buddha, he directly ordained the Kondanya, and also friends, has become the first 5 disciples in the Buddhism. So we can take a look at the content of what actually the Buddha, the action content of the Buddha deliver in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, or the teaching, the first sermon. That is the first one, what is mentioned about the 2 extremes that he himself experienced before, after learning from his 2 teachers, Aladabha and Uttakkadabhasa. These 2 extremes is called, one side is a self pleasure, which is called Kamasukhalika Nuyoga, and one who enjoys by consuming but not learning has been clinging, attaching to what he's got by neglecting what to be actually study. And that's called Kamasukhalika Yoga. One side, one extreme of two. The second side, the second extreme is try to torture himself, make himself in trouble, make himself difficult. Try to torture the body, the physical body that is called Atta Kilamatthana Yoga. So these two extremes, the Buddha do not recommend. So he mentioned that he taught that one who practiced the Buddhism must avoid these two extremes, the self-pleasure and the self-mortification or torturing, self-torturing. But he highly introduced and recommend his methodology, his method, and that is called the middle way, the Majjhima Patipatha, the middle path that he himself discovered during his enlightenment. And he has been reviewed many times during his enlightenment. And he rejected the way to enlightenment, which is actually not of the old methods. For example, one of those two extremes. He said that it's not the way to get rid of the suffering because it's not the middle way. One way is too happy, while another way is too unhappy. In a sense, he offered what is called Majjhima Patipatha, or the middle way, for those who wishing to practice the Buddhism. And it's the way that is highly reliable, which is consists of what is called the Magga. And the Majjhima Patipatha, which is the middle way, and it has become a great methodology in Buddhism, and it has been considered one of a center teaching, the heart teaching of the Buddhism, which is called the Noble Eightfold Path, which is consists of the 8 elements, 8 components. The first one is the right view. The person must have a right view, followed by the person must have the right intention. The person must have the right speech. The person must have right action. Person must have a right livelihood. Person must have a right effort, the energy. the person must have the right mindfulness. And the last piece, the last element is the right concentration. So this is the way of the noble, and that's how it has been called a noble eightfold path. The Buddha said to the Kondanya and his friend that this is my middle way that I have discovered by myself with my own wisdom, my greatest wisdom, and that's has made him a first Dhamma Chaksu or Dhamma Chakku, which later on called as the Jnana or the insight. And it is an insight that for the peace, for the knowledge, and eventually for his own enlightenment, directing to the Nibbana. This appear in the Vinaya Pitaka, I think in Mahawaka, under the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra. Maybe if you refer to the Tripitaka, it's the Tripitaka, the book number 4, under the Vinaya Pitaka. The third piece that he delivered, the content, is called the Noble Eightfold. The Four Noble Truths. So this is the Four Noble Truths has been the last piece, the last item or the component, the Buddhist teaching, the teaching of the Buddha after his enlightenment. And he eventually delivered the Four Noble Truths and the duties or the function or the duty towards the Four Noble Truths. And that is about the suffering, the cause of the suffering, which is called samudaya, and the nirodha, which is called the end of the suffering. And the last element is about the way to end the suffering. And he explained about how to perform the duty to each truth. The truth of the suffering, your duty is to know, to understand it comprehensively. The duty to the samudaya or the cause of suffering is to how to abandon, how to win over, or how to destroy the cause of the suffering. For nirodha, or the end of the suffering, your duty is how to realize, make a realization of the end of the suffering, or we call it cessation of the suffering. And the duty or the function towards the makkha or the way of the suffering, you have to develop the tools in order to destroy the suffering by practicing. And he confirmed, he gave the world the confirmation that if anyone who follow the Four Noble Truths, his teaching, the hard teaching of what he discovered, he gives the world guarantee that will get rid of the suffering. Yeah, there was some interruption. Sorry about that. And that's what he eventually end up his teaching, which is called the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra. So the first sermon is not only the first structured discourse given by the Buddha after his enlightenment, but it also contained all the essence of his subsequent teaching. As I mentioned at the end of his talk, one of his 5 participants has recounted his understanding of what has been said and asked to be received as a disciple, a request the Buddha granted. That is Godanya, thus establishing the first order of the monk. So the Asalahapuja has become a day that commonly observed by, for example, donating, offering to the temples, maybe listening to the sermon, which is called Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra, the detail of the content, by chanting or by meditating. And the Asalahapuja has been followed by the second day is called Kalpansa or Awasa Day in Theravada, a rain retreat, which is the day after. So if you're looking at this point, that the Buddha spending this day in order to establish what is called Buddhism, That means it may be called as the Dhamma Day, the Buddha Day, the Dhamma Day, and that's called Asalahapuja. So this is the importance of the Asalahapuja Day and the significance of each content that fall under his teaching on the particular day. The spot that I used to go there for my meditation retreat in India, that's where the Buddha delivered his first sermon, which is called Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. It's called the Dhammamekha Stupa, which is right now, that location, that special location is called Saranatha, or ในภาษาไทยเรา pronounce Saranat. And it has become one of the most destination for the Buddhists who want to inspire himself in the Buddhism in India after the four pilgrimages. The place where the Buddha born, or the birthplace of the Buddha, the spot where the Buddha enlightened, which is called under the Bodhi tree in the Vihara state of India. And where his enlightenment that we are discussing today as the Asalahapuja Day, which called the Deer Park or Isipatana Malakatayavana, and the last one where the Buddha died or Parinibbana, which in Kushinala. The activities or the service that we perform today as the Buddhist activities, that is about paying the homage to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, that may be commonly chanting like Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava. And then we also paying respect to the Buddha. That is began as Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato for 3 times. And then we chanting in praise of the Buddha for his enlightenment. And that is, we begin with the Itipiso Bhagava. That is the praise, chanting praise of the Buddha. And then we also chanting in praise of the Dhamma. That is began with the Sawakato Bhagavata Dhammo. And then we chanting in praise of the Sangha. and that is began with Supatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Saṅkho. And then we chanting in order to make a recollection of the first sermon that delivered by our great teacher, the Buddha, that is Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra, that always began with the Evam me sutang ekang samayang, because it has been repeated during the first Buddhist council 3 months after the death of the Buddha by Ananta, one of the greatest disciples of the Buddha, or the brother. Ananta is the brother of the Buddha with a different mother, from a different mother. And then it always ends with the homage in the occasion of Asalahapuja Day, that is began with Yamanta Shomayang. So these are the activities or the service that's performed during the Asalahapuja Day. The service is not only performed by the lay person or within the Sangha or the Buddhist community, but also performed officially by the monarchy. The king and the queens come out to perform to be the chairperson of the official service, especially in Thailand, perform in the palace and also in the official monastery. And during the night time, followed by walking the candle in order to recall about the greatest qualities, the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. In order to praise, make an appreciation to the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. The Asalahapuja Day not only celebrated in Thailand, but also in many countries right now, that the school of the Theravada has been practiced. For example, in Sri Lanka, in Burma, Laos, and Cambodia. But they do not pay much about the service as compared to Thailand, or as compared to the Visakha Day, which is very commonly celebrated in all the country that I mentioned, for example, Sri Lanka, Burma, Laos, and Cambodia. So what I would like invite you to participate the great importance day of the Buddhism like Asalahapuja day. If you don't have time or if you don't have the opportunity to go to join the service at temple, you probably, I really highly recommend you to do the same thing at home by chanting the first sermon of the Buddha. You can go on YouTube, you can go on Google and search for Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, and you can listening to, if you cannot chant, and you have to follow by, I recommend it, follow by the meditation, and you probably end up with listening to the content of the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta in order to review what the Buddha taught, what the Buddha delivered, the Dhamma, the way to get rid of the suffering of life. I hope my talk today inspire you, give you some motivation about how to get rid of the suffering from the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta of the Buddha. And I wish everybody happy, I wish everybody safe for and on the Asalahapuja day today. And we will come back to see you again the next Saturday morning. I will pass this to Ajahn Thawachai. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you